you've probably seen, and I know we've played at least one clip of this guy or two. He's an GHF contractor.
The Gaza Humanitarian Foundation.
Foundation set up by Israel and America, or
CIA guys.
Exactly. He was essentially a contractor, mercenary, former Green Beret, Anthony Aguilar. He was sent there apparently expecting that they were actually doing humanitarian aid, and he was protecting recipients of humanitarian aid and protecting the aid. And his experience there was very, very different. He's been on a bunch of shows. Here's a clip of him on the MSNBC weekend primetime show.
I'm not speaking because this is my story. I'm speaking because this is the story of a population of human beings that if we don't do something now, we are on a dangerous road, and a day of reckoning is coming that as a world, we're going to see it, and we have no excuse. We have no excuse when everything comes to bear and this box is opened and we see inside. We have no excuse as a nation. We have no excuse as the world to look at this and say we didn't know. We do know. And I'm not looking for anyone's approval. I'm not looking for the approval of paid spokespersons from the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation or a paid contract lawyer who wants to talk about, I don't know how to, I don't know what I'm seeing on a certain site when I've been there. So I'm here for consciousness and for doing what's right and American values. America needs to know what we are doing in Gaza, what we are complicit in, and America's voice needs to stand up and put an end to it. Because a day of reckoning is coming, and right now we are on the wrong side of history.
Lieutenant Colonel, do you believe that you witnessed war crimes, not just the fog of war, as the IDF has said that this is not a policy? Where did these orders come from? Is it a systemic policy? And how does it compare to when you served in Iraq and Afghanistan?
Complicated and complex environments require strong leadership and require strong morals. It's very easy in a situation like this where the population has been dehumanized to see them running and scrounging for food and to see them as, it's very easy to go down that path of dehumanization and then just looking the other way. War, the fog and friction of war is real. However, the azimuth, the line that keeps us straight through that fog and friction is our morals and our ethics, humanitarian laws that we all abide by. These aren't questionable. These aren't things that have flexibility. These are our guideposts. The Israeli Defense Forces have been put in a very precarious situation in the south because the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation put all three of the sites, the southern sites, in the middle of combat zones. Each of the distribution sites in the south are right in the middle of ongoing combat operations. It puts the IDF in a very bad position tactically and operationally, and it puts them in a dilemma to where they're in their area of trying to combat Hamas, which is their mission. They're also having to pretend with 8 to 9 to 15,000 hungry civilians in any given day. And when there's not strong leadership and there isn't a strong purpose, then this type of situation where we see the war bear on people, where the dehumanization becomes almost organic, that this is what that becomes. And, up in northern Gaza, they've been isolated for even longer. No one can go in and out of the Netzarim corridor north in the Gaza city and Jabalia. And when aid starts going in there, when the world has had enough and we start to go in to northern Gaza, we're going to see things that are going to bring the world to their knees. Mark my words, we are going to see human suffering like the world has not seen in a long time. And it's going to bring us to our knees. And we have an opportunity right now to stop this and to do the right thing. And if we don't, we are complicit in that. And the world is going to see it. And that day is coming.
That would just... hearing that just sends a chill down your spine, right? Because we know that we only know a fraction of both the death toll, the level of suffering, the level of destruction. And Aguilar, I heard his interview with Breaking Points, and he said something in that interview where I think it was like, talking about Hamas, and he had mentioned this is not to discredit him. This is just to do the opposite to anybody who's still like a Zionist watching this. He had said the thing about the microwaving babies in that interview or something in passing, which was a lie that Hamas was doing that, a propagandistic lie at the outset of the genocide to manufacture consent for it. I only point that out to say that this is somebody who wasn't approaching this with a bias. It was somebody who had
He was going as a mercenary.
As a mercenary.
He had served in Iraq and Afghanistan and is still going out there as a mercenary. I mean, the
amount of credibility of his testimony is just important to underscore here. And what he is saying is that this genocide is, from his own eyes, even worse than what we have seen and what we know.
Let's look at clip number 4. This is a ITV News somehow got a hold of aerial footage of Gaza. It has been just obliterated.
And they're prohibited from filming. So this is the IDF keeps
building by building. Gaza is being erased.
Well, let's hear their
cities like broken skeletons laid waste by war. Graveyards of life and lives. The streets, homes, and coffee houses of old now cast to the ground. The soul of this place, along with the souls who lived here, brought to ruin in the rubble and dust. Israel bans foreign journalists from entering Gaza. 15,000 feet above is the closest we get to seeing for ourselves the consequences of the war it is waging here. When we joined an airdrop last week, Israel also tried to restrict images from above being filmed or shown. Aid being dropped from this flight is to those who are trying to survive in this hell. This was Gaza before the bombs started falling, a place of life where normal lives were lived. There is no sign of that normality now. This is one of the explosions which destroyed Gaza, targeting the Turkish-Palestine Friendship Hospital, the only specialist cancer hospital in Gaza. This is what's left of it now. This was the Al Wafa Old People's Home. We can't say what's become of its residents. This was a primary and secondary school. We can't say what became of the pupils. Many of the other ruins were homes. We can't say whether those that lived here survived or are among the 60,000 now dead. Under international law, it is a war crime to target schools, hospitals, and other civilian sites.
All right. We should say that the 60,000 person death toll is only the official count, and any reasonable estimates that are now coming out as people study this anticipate that number to be anywhere from 8 to 10 times that. We should also say there's aerial drops of aid. Canada just did some. It is woefully inadequate. You need trucks to go in, and Israel is still inhibiting trucks from getting in there. Just to give you a sense, over the past, I guess, year or so, we've heard messages from a family in Gaza via their brother who lived in Europe. Part of the family was able to get out about a year ago, I guess now, to Egypt. They have been sending money back to Gaza, where they have essentially started a bakery. This is not the one. It's a different link. But we got another message from the family. I just want to give you a sense of, let's first do the rice. The Gaza bakery is handing out, I don't think it's a bakery in the sense that we think of bakeries here, but they're handing out and cooking of rice apparently is one of the few things that gets in. And this is they're helping serve food to people. And this is in I believe it's in southern Gaza. I want to show you a picture of Muhammad, who we've spoken to on the program, his brother. There are 3 pictures. We're going to start with it's basically before and after. This is a little disturbing. This was Muhammad's brother, Kadar, a couple of years ago. And then the interim is a picture of him here. And then the most recently, this is the latest picture. You can see that he has lost an extraordinary amount of weight. It's just, this is what's happening in Gaza. We also have an audio message from another member of the family that they wanted us to play. It's upsetting just to hear the level of desperation. But it's important for them to know that people are at least aware of what's going on in Gaza. Let's play this audio.
My name is Rina. I'm 21 years old, speaking from Gaza. This is a first-hand account. My brother just returned from one of the Gaza aid distribution sites, the ones backed by a U.S. group. He saw people shot while reaching for flour. Children were lying in blood. We are terrified. Israel is turning food lines into war zones, and they are targeting children. We are starving, but it is too dangerous to get food. This isn't humanitarian aid. It's a death trap funded by the U.S. and backed by Trump. Please, don't stay silent. Share this. Speak out. Demand an end to U.S. support. We just want to leave.
We have a link to the Gaza bakery. This is not it. It's
I sent it in the chat.
Emma sent it in the chat. We had, and here it is. You can go and donate money that they're now essentially applying to try and provide food for people in Gaza. You know, I think the way this works is pretty complicated, I would imagine. And, I don't know how food gets in, where they're getting it from, but that's what they're doing there.
It's important to note that this has been a story that's been kind of under the radar, but I want to give credit to the Washington Post for 2 days ago having an article on what Israel's been doing in terms of funding this gang, essentially. It's led by this guy, Yasser Abu Shabab, who Hamas is basically accusing of being a traitor because he's clearly taking money from Israel, and he has a militia of around 100 people that have been stealing aid so that Israel can blame it on Hamas. And this was a tactic that Israel's used previously with Hamas, where they propped up the government of Hamas. Netanyahu openly talked about allowing Qatar to fund Hamas so that they could use them as a scapegoat to further immiserate Palestinians, because Hamas was not a leftist or, pacifist organization in the way that, some other Palestinians groups had been. So
they wanted to basically divide the Palestinian people and have a competitor to Fatah.
Right.
So that there was no no unified Palestinian body politic, essentially.
But just to give, Israel isn't just blocking almost all aid to try to starve Palestinians to death in this final solution territory. They are also funding groups that will steal aid so that they can justify it on the ground. And this level of depravity and evil is historic in many ways.
It starts with the whole smearing of the UN. The GHF should not exist. There should be no use for a, quote, Gaza humanitarian foundation run by mercenaries. I talked with Jasper Nathaniel about this. Like, humanitarian aid is actually a discipline. You can't just have some mercenary come in and do it. UNRWA should be doing this. It isn't Israel let aid in, it's Israel let the UN in. But unfortunately, even Chuck Schumer was talking to the New York Times about how anti-Semitic that organization is. Yeah. So here we are.
I should also say, got an email from a listener, Abby, in Minneapolis. She was doing a raffle. We missed the email, but for Many Lands Mutual Aid, who provides as much food aid as he can in Gaza. We'll also include that link it's also a separate GoFundMe. I don't know. I'm not familiar with this. Listener Abby writes in and then says that she's been raising money for them. Do know the Gaza bakery stuff, or at least we've spoken to Muhammad on this program a couple times, I think, over the past year or two. But we'll put both links in there. And again, at the end of the day, there has to be a change in policy. And it's obviously extremely difficult to be outside of the coalition that is dictating policy in this country and influence it. I think to the extent that there's Republicans who have argued against the policy that this government has in supporting what Israel is doing, I don't know that they're ever going to have the numbers.
We saw the polling. Like right now, Gallup has 25% of independents support Israel's military action in Gaza. 8% of Democrats support it. Around 70% of Republicans do. I mean, this was our argument prior to the election. It was that it's not about the candidates in the sense as it's about who's in the coalition. And like you've got Marjorie Taylor Greene or Thomas Massey speaking out, it's not making a difference. And no matter how many media figures are doing this, because Trump wants to turn it into the Riviera of the Middle East, and he did a quid pro quo basically with the Israel lobby, including Miriam Adelson, to annex the West Bank in exchange for helping him get elected. So this is what we've had. We are not in the coalition in the same way. Like, this was part of what Slotkin was saying in that interview with Crystal. Like, well, I don't see the same amount of protests against Trump. First of all, it was because Democratic voters had the gall to expect that their president would have a little bit more humanity than Donald Trump. And we were in the coalition, so we had the opportunity to influence them. Secondly, the Trump administration is repressing protest in a very aggressive way and criminalizing it, so people are afraid, and Slotkin is trying to make a hypocrisy argument about that instead of acknowledging that very real reality. And thirdly, there have been protests. It just hasn't been at the same, I guess, level at the height of it, because the worst has already happened in many ways. Like, we are past a point of no return, and that is why we are seeing these craven Democrats flip now, because they know what's coming, and they know that we're going to see hundreds of thousands of dead and an entire population be decimated.
I'm not even sure if we don't actually have a similar amount of protests. It's just that it's not a news story anymore.
It's not campaign season.
It's not just a question of campaign season. It's more of a news story when members of a coalition are protesting against their own sort of successful political leadership.
Yes.
She knows that. Everyone who is, has any type of sort of mild association or awareness of what politics are knows that. Jerry McLean says, I've been getting ads smearing the UN on YouTube. There is no doubt. And a couple of people have mentioned this. I think even Brian, you mentioned this too, is that there is a tremendous amount of money that is being poured into, I mean, not just YouTube, I would imagine, but all sorts of like internet advertising, because Israel realizes it is losing this public relations battle in the U.S. Is it, an existential fight if they lose political support in the U.S.? Well, I mean, ultimately. But they are very, very nervous, I think, and rightfully so, because it's quite clear that at the very least, the Democratic voter, the typical Democratic voter, they have lost, just in terms of like the polling. They still have the leadership and they're paying for it. That's why, Cory Booker won't endorse Zohran Mamdani. And I don't know that his endorsement would make a difference. But there's a reason why, Chuck Schumer and Kristen Gillibrand, they're all staying away. It is because their donors want them to. And their donors want them to probably as much, if not far more, because of Israel than anything else.
And dear God, if you want to come at me that way, you're going to have to take it up with me.
So good. So Cory Booker's up in 2026. It's really interesting because in New Jersey, Josh Gottheimer just like soaked up Israel money. Gimme. One of the most right-wing Democrats in Congress. And he got single digits. Like Ross Baraka outpaced him, and Mikey Sherrill won the nomination. But I'd be interested if Ross Baraka would take on Cory Booker in a primary for 2026. Because Cory Booker is still doing this dance here. And I want to, Chaotic Leftist on Twitter actually tweeted this out, gave me the idea. So credit to her. But I think that there could be some Democrats that are taken by surprise by how there's going to be a motivated voting population to come out for somebody that rejects AIPAC money and this level of support for genocide.
I know one Democrat who I think was taken by surprise about the depth and the importance of this issue to Democratic voters. And her name was Kamala Harris.
Yep.
And it's sort of shocking because, again, I keep thinking about that poll that Harry Enton showed over the past 8 years or 10 years, how dramatically, like tens, I can't remember, with dozens of points difference between that has shifted in terms of sympathy with Israel versus sympathy with the Palestinians. And surely the people on Harris's campaign must have known this. And they made a calculation that the financial support that we're getting from a certain donor class is more important than these actual opinions of these Democrats. And, with these things, you can never know for sure what is the one thing that depressed turnout, depressed activists cost you votes. But there is a lot of evidence that it had a far greater impact than they anticipated and may have been determinate.
Then trans issues, for example. Because of what supporting Israel codes as for a voter. It means you're an establishment person who can't be trusted. That's what people think. When you take AIPAC money, they think bought not for me, for the Israel lobby, for corrupt interests. That is the line of demarcation. So even if you want to be all cynical about it, the consultants have motivated reasoning to say that supporting Israel is not going to cost us elections because
deal.
They're all making money together.
People are actually cool with it.
This whole well-funded class that has successfully both manufactured candidates that have this ideology, but also insulate like Democrats from just craven political realities about what would benefit them electorally is one of the most corrupt things ever. We'll talk about that article in tomorrow about where all this money is going in the DNC. I mean, this is a major problem, and it's a deeply depressing reality that we squandered the organizing from 2008. And less than 20 years later, we are in such a horrific position with the Democratic Party, at least on a national level, where this is what makes sense is like these Democrats in Texas or in Illinois or on the state level, they are so much better equipped to deal with this than our AIPAC-funded, corrupt career Democrats in Congress who are so out of touch that it's completely destroying the brand of the party and preventing us from mounting an opposition to fascism.
They're fatally corrupt in a way that's historically almost unprecedented.
Yep.
B. Dan from San Diego. I bet Kamala was pro-Palestine. She would have won had she been. I don't even think, personally, I think things would be better than they are now in terms of our Palestinian policy than Trump. And, it's impossible to prove a counterfactual. But I don't even think that she would have had to have been actively pro-Palestinian. She needed to indicate that she was open or was interested in changing our policy from that time. And that could have been indicated by any number of things. Let a Palestinian speak at the DNC with the most sort of benign speech that you could possibly imagine from a Palestinian American lawmaker, which would have at least indicated that there is some recognition that Palestinians are human beings, which would have been a significant upgrade from what the Biden administration had done. Again, I'm not being Pollyannish here. I don't think that I don't know where we would be in terms of this conflict, but I do think that we would not be seeing this mass starvation at this point under a Harris administration. But they failed in a completely, just sort of like a crass political calculation. They failed to recognize this, or they simply made a trade-off that they thought they could get away with. That was, I'm not going to alienate these donors, but I'm okay to alienate these voters. That was the trade-off they made. And she did not lose for lack of money. So that was a very bad trade-off. Because at the end of the day, the money's there to get you votes.
Well, also buy some nice cars with it. How many words do you think she's going to spend on the Gaza decision in 107 days?
Oh my God!
Is she going to skim entirely
over
107
days?
Her new book coming out.
Oh,
Sam.
Jesus, I can't.
I know. I literally.
I think I had already blocked that out of my mind.
I might get into hard drugs.
Honestly, the title itself.
October 7th days?
No. It is a complaint.
Oh, yeah.
The title itself is a complaint.
Didn't let me cook. Just needed more time to get to know her.
How about the word unfair?
I mean, yeah. Again, I'm sympathetic to how women and especially women of color have to navigate things that are our politics. And there's things where, I think in an ideal world, politicians like that could be freed to say more things if they weren't so afraid of how they'd be perceived, or if they didn't have a consultant class that also has certain assumptions about women and women of color that hamstring them. And I think she's in many ways part of that kind of lack of progress we have as a country. But it doesn't really matter because her politics, it's just evident in the fact that she hasn't said anything. They're just the Democrats that lost. I know it's good decorum to, after you lose, go into hibernation a little bit. But that's not what this moment meets right now. We're in a fascist moment, and it showed the hollowness of that kind of liberalism or that lack of coalition or organizing is made clear right now, because she's not like, if she were a true leader that could meet this moment, or in 2028 that could meet that moment, she would have not gone away after her loss. She would have been a part of organizing and mounting an opposition to Donald Trump. But her apparatus and her politics is fundamentally incapable of doing that. And that's part of what, it's not just a new generation of leadership in terms of age. That's part of it, though. It's both its age and also, of course, ideology.
All right,
The
folks.
shortest presidential campaign in modern history.
It's wow. Hey, folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our daily show. We do it every day at 12 p.m. Eastern for about 2.5 hours. We even take phone calls. You should check that out.